Hello everyone. Today let's talk a little bit about the upcoming Cryostat 4.0 release. I've gone ahead and installed Cert Manager on this cluster and an upstream development version of what's about to become the 4.0 release. It's not quite out yet, so this is the upstream pre-release. But normally to install this, if you just go to your OpenShift Console and go to Operator Hub, search for Cryostat, you'll find a Red Hat build of Cryostat. This version number will become 4.0 soon enough, and you can install it that way. Since I've just done this is the first new feature of two we're going to dive into today. Let's hit Refresh Web Console, and we'll notice something new on our left-hand navigation pane. So we do see here now, since I've installed the Cryostat 4.0 operator, we have now this new Cryostat menu item at the bottom. Now, I don't want to go too in-depth on existing Cryostat features. There are other demos and documentations and things out there that you can reference for that. But basically, this lets us go into Cryostat functionality directly from our OpenShift console. So this is a console dynamic plugin, and it lets us do lots of the Cryostat work we've seen before without needing to go into individual routes for Cryostat instances and see the console directly there. Right now, we don't have any Cryostat instances installed in this cluster. We just have the operator. So let's go ahead and fix that. We'll go ahead back to the installed operators view, get this Cryostat API. We'll create a Cryostat. I actually want to do this in my Cryostat namespace, so let's switch over to that first. Go ahead and create this. So we're in the Cryostat project. We're going to create a Cryostat named Cryostat sample. The target namespaces, I've also created one called demo apps, so we're going to use that. And that's it. Everything else we're just going to leave with the defaults. So let's go ahead and hit create. So at this point, our operator is going to pick up that this custom resource has been created. We're going to see, there we go, the status field starting to populate, reflecting the status that the operator is starting to do work, starting to do things. So we can see that in this we'll call this the installation namespace, the namespace or the project where we've created our Cryostat instance. We have these three deployments. We also have some services, and with those deployments we have some pods. So the storage pod is already up and running. The database, I'm sure, will be ready in just a moment. And then shortly after that, there it is, shortly after that, Cryostat itself will also become available. Once that is up and running, then we are able to start sending traffic to some of those services and interacting with our brand new Cryostat. Okay, brief error there. It's up and running again. It's almost ready. So just another moment, and I think we'll be good to go. Once this hits 5 out of 5, we're ready for action. There it is. Okay, so let's jump back over to this brand new console plugin UI. Let's go to the topology view. So this is, again, we've seen Cryostat topology before, not going to go too much depth. Basically, we can do this now from directly in our console, like I said. Right now we have no targets found, so just to prove the functionality here, I'll go ahead and create a custom target that is just basically telling Cryostat to connect to itself on a loopback interface. So let's go ahead and hit create, and we can see now Cryostat can see itself on that topology view. And we can see a little bit of details about what Cryostat can determine about itself. So we can see what its own JVM version is, and we can see some details about the cluster here, how many CPUs and RAM and all that stuff. You can do most of your regular Cryostat stuff from in here. So you can see your custom event or your event templates. You can see the JFR event types. That's JDK flight recorder event types that are available in this JVM and all that good stuff. So that's a quick, brief overview of what we have with the console plugin. Now let's talk about the second big feature in this release, and this is maybe the more exciting one, and it's to do with the Cryostat agent. So we're on Cryostat 4.0. Previously 3.0, 2.4, and 2.3 have been compatible with the Cryostat agent. But up until now, it's taken a little bit of manual work on the part of the developer or maybe a DevOps role to add the Cryostat agent jar to the application container, add some configuration, and get it all hooked up before you can get to the point where your application shows up in here and your Cryostat can see it and interact with it and start profiling it, capturing data, all that stuff. So here in Cryostat 4.0, we have a great new feature that really simplifies that whole workflow of getting your Cryostat hooked up, or sorry, your application hooked up to your Cryostat. So I'm going to open a second window here and keep this open on the admin perspective on the left side, and on the right side we're going to go in to the developer perspective. So let's go ahead into the demo apps. So let's imagine that on the left side we're the cluster admin, we've installed the Cryostat operator, and we've created a Cryostat instance for use by a team who's developing some application. And on the right hand side we are a developer who's going to be working on that application in this project called demo apps. Let's go ahead and get started with a Quarkus application. So I'm just going to use this as straight out of the getting started sample application from OpenShift Console. This is not a Cryostat modified application in any way. Pure Quarkus sample application dev files right from upstream. I'm going to take all the defaults, hit create. Okay, so from that point, this is now going to go ahead and run a build. This might take a moment, so I'm going to pause the recording and resume it once our pod here is up and running, and then we'll resume the demo. Okay, so we're good to go. Our build is completed, and we now have a pod running. So up until this point, like I said, it's been a little bit complicated getting the Cryostat agent hooked up and running in your application. You have to deal with bearer authentication tokens. You have to deal with TLS certificates. You have to deal with callback URLs. And all that with configuring environment variables and changing your deployment, all kinds of things. And all that stuff is still there. It has to be done. But we have this smart Cryostat operator that's already running in your cluster and can figure out for you how to configure a lot of those aspects with just a little bit of information on your behalf. So let's go ahead and just give the operator that information. So with my completely stock dev files sample Quarkus application here, I'm just going to go ahead and say edit deployment. I'm going to go into the YAML view so it's more clear what I'm doing. So here we're looking at the deployment YAML. We have the spec, template, metadata, labels. So these are the labels that apply to the pods of this deployment. And we're just going to add two labels, and they're very simple ones. Cryostat.io/namespace, and the value is going to be this project, the installation namespace of my Cryostat instance. So in this case, that's just Cryostat. And the second label, Cryostat.io/name. The name, the value here is going to be just the name of my Cryostat custom resource. So in this case, Cryostat-sample. Okay, I'm going to hit save, and we're going to see that that's going to cause a rollout of our new pod. We can see there was an init container there. You may have missed it. And on the left-hand side, that was very quick. We can see in the admin view in Cryostat, actually our code with Quarkus application has already shown up. That's it. It's ready to go. We're done. So now if we go into here, we can see some details about what that application is. We can see that it's going to be using TLS, HTTPS, talking to our application in the demo apps project. We can see a bunch of information about what that application is. So we can see that it's using JDK 17. We can see all kinds of stuff about the input arguments and some system properties and lots of details that you might want to know about what this application is. But of course, I think this is Cryostat. More interesting is let's get to some profiling, right? Let's see what we can do with this thing. Oh, what did I just do there? Maybe that's a bug we'll fix for this release. Let's go into this thing and say, let's jump over to the events view this way and start a recording on our new application using the profiling event template. So create a recording. I'm going to call it demo, and we're going to run it for, let's just say 1 minute. 1 minute with the profiling template. Okay, go ahead and create that. Okay, so that's it. I'm going to move this over so that we're not taking up two different sides of the screen. So that's running. And now we're capturing JFR, JDK flight recorder data from that application. while it's running, we can still do our typical things of, let's say, we can view this analysis in Grafana. So I have to give this my credentials here. This is the same credentials that I used to log into the cluster initially. I have to re-enter them here. Let's allow these permissions, and we're in. So now we can see some nice data about this application, what it's doing. We're not going through and clicking through the Quarkus UI. We could be doing that like this, making it, give us some responses there. Wouldn't be too interesting, but we could do something like that. Try to view more data. So there we go. 1 minute of data, a little bit of CPU load, a little bit of used physical memory. Let's see what else we have. Heap. We can see some object allocations happening. We can see maybe a little bit of network activity, not too much, but the data's there. We can also do things like automated analysis, so we can see if Cryostat detects any potential issues. We can go in our dashboard. We can see some MBean information kind of on a live, ongoing basis. We can create our automated analysis card from this perspective as well. And this is also a brief new feature I'll show. It's a diagnostics card, and we can see it allows us to invoke a garbage collection operation on this JVM. So let's wait for this heap memory usage chart to update one more time, any second now. And let's go ahead and say start garbage collection. And the next time this chart updates, we should see that hopefully this chart will have gone down because the garbage collection should have been run. So any moment now, we should see that new data point come in. And there it is. That's a good drop. Yeah, so that's it for this quick demo. Hopefully that was inspiring. Go ahead and try it out. Get started with your applications and Cryostat. By the way, this doesn't only work with Quarkus. This works with all kinds of things. You can use the same approach with, for example, here's Spring Boot. I'm going to go ahead and hit Create. I'll do the exact same thing, right? I'm going to go ahead in this deployment. I'm going to go to these labels, namespace Cryostat, name Cryostat sample, save. And while that's still building, it's going to finish, but once it does come up, we'll be able to see that our Spring Boot application will also just pop right up here into our Cryostat view, and we'll be able to profile that one as well. That easy. There are some other environment variables, some other labels you can use to change different settings. Here you can add one to this set, Java opt bar, and you can say, for example, module opts. So by default, this is going to use the environment variable called Java tool options. But if you're using, for example, EAP, JBoss, Wildfly, you can use module opts, and it'll hook in the exact same way. You can get your Cryostat agent injected into your Wildfly the exact same way. And we can see now actually our Spring Boot's up and running too. So that's also there. This one is also JDK 17. I think it's probably a very similar setup. Yeah, so that's it. Thanks for watching, and have fun.